I, 29F, am facing a difficult situation with my older sister Emma, 33F, and could really use some advice. Our childhood was far from ideal. We grew up in a small, rundown house on the outskirts of a dying industrial town. Our parents struggled with addiction for as long as I can remember. Dad would disappear for days on end, leaving us with Mom who was barely functional most of the time. Emma practically raised me. She'd wake me up for school, pack my lunches when we had food, and made sure I did my homework. I remember one winter when I was about 8. Our heat got shut off. Emma, only 12 herself, figured out how to light the gas stove safely so we could stay warm. She was my protector, my hero. But as we got older, things got harder. Emma started hanging out with a rough crowd in high school. I think she was just looking for an escape from our home life. By 15, she was using drugs regularly. At first, it was just weed, but it escalated quickly to harder stuff. I covered for her at first, lying to our parents about where she was. I thought I was helping, but looking back, I was just enabling her. There was one night when I was 14 that I'll never forget. Emma was supposed to pick me up from a school dance, but she never showed. I waited for hours in the cold before walking the 5 miles home alone. I found her passed out on the bathroom floor, needle still in her arm. I was terrified she was dead. That was the first time I realized how bad things had gotten. Despite everything, I managed to do well in school. It was my escape, my ticket out of that life. When I was 17, I got a scholarship to a college in the city, 3 hours away. It was my chance to break free, but I felt so guilty about leaving Emma behind. She told me to go, promised she'd get clean. I left, hoping things would get better. College was a culture shock. I was surrounded by people who'd never known real hunger or fear. But I adapted. I threw myself into my studies and worked part-time jobs to support myself. That's where I met Jack, 31M. He was a customer at the cafe where I worked, always leaving big tips and stopping to chat. We started dating in my sophomore year. Jack came from a stable, middle-class family. At first, I was embarrassed to tell him about my background. But when I finally opened up, he was incredibly understanding. He helped me work through a lot of my childhood trauma and showed me what a healthy relationship looks like. Meanwhile, things with Emma got worse. She'd call me at odd hours, asking for money. Once she showed up at my dorm, high out of her mind, causing a scene that almost got me kicked out of housing. I had to distance myself to focus on my education, but the guilt ate at me constantly. After graduation, Jack and I got married and started building the stable home I'd always dreamed of. We now have 2 beautiful kids, Zoe, 5F, and Tyler, 3M. I have a good job in marketing, and Jack runs his own small business. We have a cozy house in a safe neighborhood with a fridge that's always full. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. But Emma's addiction spiraled further out of control. She'd steal from our parents, our relatives, anyone she could. I'd get calls about her being arrested or in the hospital. I tried to help by paying for rehab twice, but she always relapsed within weeks. The last straw was 3 years ago. Emma showed up at my house unexpectedly, clearly high, with the sketchy-looking guy she introduced as her friend. While I was distracted getting the kids a snack, they tried to steal my laptop and some jewelry. If Jack hadn't come home early from work and caught them, who knows what else they would have taken. I had to call the police. Watching them put Emma in handcuffs broke my heart, but I knew I had to protect my family. After that incident, I cut contact completely. I changed my number and blocked Emma on social media. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I had to put my kids' safety first. I mourned the loss of my sister, the person she used to be before drugs took over. Last week, out of the blue, Emma called me from a new number. She was crying, saying she's 6 months clean and has nowhere to go. Apparently, she got evicted from her apartment and lost her job at a gas station. She begged me to let her stay with us, just for a little while until she gets back on her feet. Part of me wants to help her. Despite everything, she's still my sister. I remember the brave girl who protected me from our parents' fights, who made sure I always had something to eat, even if it meant she went hungry. I miss the person she used to be before the drugs took over. But I'm terrified of letting her addiction back into my life. What if she relapses? What if she steals again? My kids barely know her. Zoe has only met her once, and Tyler's never even seen her in person. How can I bring that uncertainty into their lives? I've worked so hard to create a stable, loving home for my family. The thought of jeopardizing that terrifies me. But then I think about Emma out on the streets, alone and desperate, and my heart breaks all over again. Jack says it's ultimately my decision, but I can tell he's wary. He's seen how much Emma's actions have hurt me over the years. He's worried about the kids, about the potential impact on our marriage. My in-laws think I'm crazy for even considering it. They say I need to protect my children above all else. I told Emma I'd think about it, but I honestly don't know what to do. Am I a terrible sister if I say no? How can I help her without risking everything I've built? The guilt is overwhelming, but so is the fear. Some additional background. Our parents are still alive, but they're in no position to help. Dad's been in and out of jail for drug-related offenses, and Mom's in a nursing home with early-onset dementia, likely caused by years of substance abuse. They burned bridges with most of our extended family years ago. I feel like I'm the only one left who might be able to help Emma, but I'm also the one with the most to lose. How do I balance my responsibility to my sister with my duty to protect my children? How can I help her without enabling her addiction? I'm so torn and could really use some outside perspectives. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? How do you help an addict without sacrificing your own well-being? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update. 1. Thank you all for your advice and support on my last post. The outpouring of responses, both from people who've been in similar situations and those offering outside perspectives, has been overwhelming. I've spent the last couple of weeks processing everything and wanted to give an update on the situation with my sister Emma. After a lot of soul-searching and many long talks with Jack, I decided I couldn't let Emma stay with us. The risk to my family felt too high, especially given her history of theft and erratic behavior. It was an agonizing decision, but ultimately I had to prioritize my children's safety and the stability we've worked so hard to create. I called Emma to explain my decision. I told her I love her and want to support her recovery, but having her in our home isn't an option right now. I tried to be gentle but firm, explaining that while I believe in her desire to change, I needed to see sustained sobriety and stability before I could consider integrating her back into our lives. Emma didn't take it well. She accused me of abandoning her, saying I was selfish and heartless for not helping family. She brought up all the times she protected me as kids, saying I owed her this. She said if I really loved her, I'd give her a chance. It was painful to hear, but I stood my ground. I did offer alternatives. I said I'd help her find a shelter and look into job training programs. I even offered to pay the deposit on an apartment once she found steady work. But Emma refused, saying if I really cared, I'd let her stay with us. She hung up on me and I was left feeling guilty and conflicted. A few days later, my phone exploded with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Turns out Emma had gone on a Facebook rant, twisting the story to make herself look like a victim. She painted a picture of herself as a recovered addict who just needed a little help to get back on her feet, conveniently leaving out her history of theft and relapses. Suddenly, distant aunts and cousins were messaging me, saying I should be ashamed for not helping my sister. Even my parents, who Emma had stolen from countless times, were guilt-tripping me. It was surreal to be labeled the bad guy for trying to protect my family. Jack was furious at how Emma was manipulating the situation. He wanted to post our side of the story, but I worried that would just escalate things. Instead, I decided to reach out privately to a few key family members to explain the full situation. Some understood, others still thought I was being cruel. Then, last weekend, things took a turn for the worse. We had taken the kids to the park and stopped for groceries on the way home. As we pulled into our driveway, I saw someone sitting on our front porch. My heart sank as I realized it was Emma. She looked terrible. Thin and gaunt, her clothes dirty and hanging off her. As soon as she saw us, she stood up and started yelling, demanding to be let in. It was clear she was high, her eyes wild and unfocused. I asked Jack to take the kids to our neighbor's house while I dealt with Emma. As soon as the car pulled away, Emma's demeanor changed. She started crying, begging me to help her. When that didn't work, she switched to threats, saying if I didn't help her, she'd tell my kids what kind of person their mom really is. I was shaking, but I held my ground. I told Emma she needed to leave or I'd call the police. She screamed that I was dead to her, that I was no better than our parents, and that she hoped I'd rot in hell. Then she stormed off down the street. I broke down as soon as she was out of sight. Jack found me crying on the porch when he got back. He held me while I sobbed, alternating between guilt and anger and fear. Now I'm a mess. I feel horrible for turning Emma away, especially seeing how desperate she is. What if this was her rock bottom and I missed the chance to help? But I'm also angry at how she's trying to manipulate me and turn our family against us, and I'm terrified of what she might do next. Jack has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He reminded me that I've tried to help Emma many times before, and that I need to prioritize our kids' safety. He suggested changing our locks and getting security cameras, which we're going to do this week. I'm struggling with how to handle the family fallout. Do I try to explain my side to everyone or just ignore it? And how do I move forward knowing Emma is out there, angry and desperate? I'm worried about what she might do next. I'm also not sure how to explain this to Zoe and Tyler. They're young, but they picked up that something is wrong. Zoe asked why Aunt Emma was yelling, and Tyler's been extra clingy since it happened. How do I help them understand why they can't see their aunt without scaring them? This whole situation has brought up so many old wounds and feelings. I'm trying to stay strong for my family, but inside I'm a wreck. I keep having nightmares about finding Emma overdosed like I did when we were teenagers. Then I wake up feeling guilty for not helping her, only to remember why I had to make this choice. I know logically that I'm doing the right thing by protecting my kids, but emotionally I'm torn apart. How do I reconcile my love for my sister with my need to keep my family safe? How do I move forward from here? Any advice on how to handle this situation would be really appreciated. How do I stay firm in my boundaries while still leaving the door open for Emma if she truly gets clean? And how do I start to heal from all of this? Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's really helped me navigate this difficult situation. After Emma showed up at our house, we took several security measures. We installed cameras, changed our locks, and gave photos of Emma to Zoe and Tyler's schools with instructions not to let her pick them up. It felt extreme, but I needed to know my family was safe. For a few weeks, things were quiet. No calls from Emma, no more social media drama. I was starting to relax a bit when I got a call from the local police department. Emma had been arrested for possession and petty theft. She gave them my number as her emergency contact. The officer asked if I'd be willing to post her bail. I was torn. Part of me thought maybe this would be her wake-up call, that helping her now could set her on the right path. But then I remembered all. The advice about enabling and how Emma needs to face the consequences of her actions to truly hit rock bottom. After talking it over with Jack, I told the officer I couldn't help. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I cried for hours after, feeling like I'd abandoned her. Jack reminded me that I was doing the right thing, but it still felt awful. A week later, I got a letter from Emma in jail. Seeing her handwriting, steadier than it had been in years, brought back a flood of memories. She apologized for showing up at our house and for the Facebook drama. She said being arrested was a wake-up call, and she wanted to get clean for real this time. She asked if I'd visit her in jail. I was hesitant, but Jack encouraged me to go. He said it was a safe way to talk to her without risking our home. So I went. Seeing Emma in that visiting room was surreal. She looked healthier than she had in years. I guess being locked up forced her to detox. We talked for an hour. She cried, saying she was ashamed of how she'd acted. She talked about wanting to change, but not knowing how. I told her I loved her, but couldn't risk having her in our lives until she was stable. I said I'd support her recovery from a distance. Letters, phone calls, maybe visits if she stayed clean. But she couldn't come to our house or see the kids until she proved she was better. Emma seemed to accept this. She asked about Zoe and Tyler and cried when I showed her a recent photo. She said she wanted to be the aunt they deserved. It reminded me of the protective big sister she used to be, before the drugs took over. After the visit, I felt cautiously hopeful. Emma seemed sincere about wanting to change. But I've been burned before, so I'm staying guarded. Emma's still in jail awaiting trial. Her public defender thinks she might get mandated rehab instead of prison time because it's her first felony charge. Part of her sentence might include making amends to people she's hurt. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm still struggling with family fallout. Some relatives have come around after hearing about Emma's arrest, realizing I was right to be cautious. Others are still giving me the cold shoulder. I'm trying not to let it bother me, focusing on my immediate family instead. Zoe and Tyler are picking up that something's going on. We decided to tell them a simplified version, that Aunt Emma is sick and needs special doctors to get better, so we can't see her for a while. Zoe asked if it's like when her friend's dad went to the hospital for drinking too much. Kids are perceptive. I'm taking things day by day. I'm proud of myself for holding firm on my boundaries, even though it's been brutal. I'm cautiously optimistic about Emma, but trying not to get my hopes up too much. I know recovery is a long road with lots of setbacks. For now, I'm focusing on my family and trying to heal from all this stress. Jack and I are looking into family counseling to help us all process this situation. I'm also considering finding a support group for families of addicts. I still have moments of doubt and guilt, but I'm trying to remind myself that I'm doing the best I can in a difficult situation. I'm hoping that by maintaining boundaries while still offering support, I can help Emma without endangering my family. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It's really helped me stay strong through this mess. Update 3. It's been about 6 months since my last update. I wanted to share how things have progressed with my sister Emma and our family situation. Emma completed her mandated rehab program and has been clean for 4 months now. She's living in a halfway house and attending regular NA meetings. We've been in contact through letters and weekly phone calls. It's been nice to talk to her without the chaos of addiction clouding everything. Last month, Emma asked if we could meet in person. I was nervous but agreed to meet at a coffee shop. Jack came with me for support. Seeing Emma clear-eyed and healthy was emotional. We talked for hours about her recovery, her hopes for the future, and how she wants to make amends. Emma apologized again for her behavior, especially for showing up at our house and scaring the kids. She said she's working through the 12 steps and wants to make things right, but understands if I'm not ready to forgive her yet. She shared some of what she's learned in therapy about our childhood and how it affected us both. I told Emma I'm proud of her progress, but need to see sustained change before I can fully trust her again. We agreed to keep in touch and maybe work towards supervised visits with the kids if she stays clean. It was a positive conversation, but I'm still cautious. Things aren't perfect. Emma still struggles with cravings and has had a couple close calls with relapse, but she's using her support system and coping strategies instead of giving in. It's a daily battle for her. She started working part-time at a local diner and is taking classes at the community college. Small steps, but in the right direction. As for our extended family, most have come around now that they see Emma is genuinely trying to change. A few are still frosty towards me, but I'm learning to let that go. I know I did what was best for my kids. Zoe and Tyler ask about Aunt Emma sometimes. We've told them she's feeling better but still needs to focus on her health before she can visit. They seem to accept this, though Zoe says she misses Emma's silly jokes. We've started letting them talk to her on the phone occasionally, which has been nice. Jack and I have been attending a support group for families of addicts. It's been helpful to connect with others who understand what we're going through. We've learned strategies for setting boundaries and supporting recovery without enabling. I'm still working on my own issues. Years of stress and trauma don't disappear overnight. I've started journaling and taking a yoga class to help manage my anxiety. Jack and I are also in couples counseling to work through some of the strain this situation has put on our marriage. Last week, Emma asked if she could come to Zoe's upcoming birthday party. I'm torn about it. On one hand, Emma's been doing well, and it would mean a lot to her. On the other, I'm worried about disrupting Zoe's day if things go badly. Jack thinks we should give it a try, with clear boundaries set beforehand. I haven't decided yet. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, but I'm also protecting my heart. I know recovery isn't linear, and there might be setbacks. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and keeping firm boundaries while still offering Emma support from a distance. This whole experience has taught me a lot about setting boundaries, the complexities of addiction, and the importance of protecting my own mental health. It's been a difficult journey, but I feel stronger for having gone through it. There are still tough days. Sometimes I look at my kids and feel overwhelmed by the need to protect them. Other times I remember the sister who used to protect me, and I ache for what we've lost. But I'm learning to balance these feelings, to hope for the best while preparing for setbacks. Emma's birthday is coming up next month. I'm thinking of inviting her over for dinner, just her, me, and Jack after the kids are in bed. It feels like a big step, but maybe it's time. We'll see how things go. Thank you all for your support throughout this process. It's meant more than you know. If anyone has advice about reintroducing a recovering addict to kids, I'd appreciate it. Or just general thoughts on how I'm handling things. This journey is far from over, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction.